214 Laboratory. Woohoo! I am Ms. Auger Lonsrich. I'm going to be helping you out with the laboratory portion of this course, and Mr. Durst will be taking care of the lecture portion of the course. So if you have any questions about the lab, just put them in the discussion board and I'll be happy to answer them for you. I wanted to spend a little bit of time going over how this lab is set up. We are completely online and we are using a new software that we have never used 100% for the lab, and we are both really excited about it. I think it's going to be great. If you were jumped into our class a little bit last semester, you might have had a taste of it, but we did not use it completely. We just had a few little trials to run to sort of get a feel for if it's something that we wanted to do for the summer. And oh boy, do we ever. So we're going to be focusing on a few things here just to make sure that you are clear on how to set things up and to study effectively for the lab portion of it. Obviously, the lecture portion will be different, and Mr. Durst will clue you in on how to do that. But this one is a little bit different, so I wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable in how things are set up and arranged. First of all, you all are in Visible Body now, and I want to make sure that you go to this Getting Started with the Courseware app because this really explains it very clear and well so that you can utilize a program to the most effective use of it and get the most out of it while you're studying for this class for the next 4 weeks. We have each one set up into weeks 1 through 4. And within each week, we'll give information on what it is required of you to do for that week. We are starting with the week 1 lab objectives, and I don't want to jump into that too quick. Let's go over first to the week 0 lab objectives. I have that set up here on the right side of my screen. You need to go through and read this and make sure you are comfortable and familiar with everything that is spoken on this. It's not too long. It's just a couple pages, not even 2 complete pages. But it is really important that you understand what is required and what you need to know. I specifically want to highlight this area on technology of what is required you have available, and this corresponds to your computer use. You must have a laptop or desktop computer. This program is very complex and very cool, but you do have some apps that you can use on a mobile device, but you cannot use those apps on your mobile device for the assessments. You must take all assessments, all of your tests on Visible Body on a laptop or desktop computer. That's how they wrote the program. It's not something that we are, putting on and saying, this is all we want you to use. That's the only way you can use it. And I think it's just to make sure that you have enough support to be able to look at all the materials that are on the assessments. Make sure that you have a very strong internet connection. That's really important. We are all online. You knew that when you signed up, so hopefully you've got your internet connection all set up. If you need help, make sure you go to LTS and get some help because they are there to help you out even in the summer. It's not just a semester long. They are working all year round. I also want to point out, this has been a key in the past, you must use a Firefox, Chrome, or Safari browser. Don't try to throw anything else in there. It will not work. Internet Explorer, forget about it. Firefox, Chrome, or Safari. Okay, so make sure you read through all this information and that you're comfortable and clear and your device is compliable. Okay, you want to get the most out of this program because it is really cool. And I don't want you to have any hiccups when you go through the assessments because you are not set up correctly. All right, so let's move on. Hopefully this won't be too long of a video, but there is some information that I think you need to know. So first of all, going back to this page on the left side where your home screen of your courseware is, I do want to point out you've got your 3 apps down here. You hopefully are already familiar with that. I like setting everything up on my left side of my screen and then I put the tabs up. So when you go up to these apps, you'll see the 4 apps that you have available. I open up the apps that I use and then I just can click really quickly back and forth and then look over at the worksheet of what you need to know and then go into the materials of how to find what you need to know and you're not searching and closing and opening and closing and opening and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. No, you don't want to do that. So, so set this up so you can just quickly jump back and forth. That will make things easier. You do have 4 softwares or apps that you're going to be getting from Visible Body, or that you already have, I should say. The main 2 that you're going to be using is the Human Anatomy and the Anatomy and Physiology app. Anatomy Physiology app is going to be like your lab manual. Okay, we're not requiring a lab manual this summer, so save you some cash. And we're going to be utilizing this A&P app for that purpose. We'll come back to that in a moment. The next one is the Human Anatomy Atlas. I will refer to this as Atlas. This is where you can really dig deeper into the different structures that you're going to have to learn and understand relationships of where they're located in the body. It's really, really cool, great, very complex when you get to the nervous system, cranial nerves. Any of that stuff can get like crazy, but there's ways to work around it, and you need to start getting comfortable with using the Atlas so that you can find material quickly, because you will have to do that for assessments. In fact, let's just go to that right now because I wanted to make sure it's pointed out. I'm not going to go through this stuff detailed. This is for you to play around with and get comfortable, but I'll just use one example to begin with. You need to be able to move around really effectively. So you should be able to turn models, make them go up and down, move them around. This I find very helpful. So it's putting down the space bar and moving your mouse back and forth. This is going to be important because you will have to do this for your assessments, okay? Zooming in and out would be the last big one that I think you need to be able to do. Very comfortable, like it's second nature. I don't want you to get on assessments and all of a sudden panic on, oh, but I have to go over to the left and all I'm doing is going to the right. I want to go to the left. No, okay, you can't do that on assessments. You're going to have limited time to take your assessments. Start getting comfortable now, learning how to manipulate the models that you're going to have to use to identify different structures. Now, I'm using the Atlas as just a demo, because what I'm giving an example for is here, sometimes on assessments, you might have to remove items in order to see certain structures that we're asking you a question about. So for instance, if it doesn't look like the only thing on this, and I should unclick that so you can see, it's just showing you ligaments and so forth, right? So there's nothing underneath it. Well, there is actually something underneath it. And if you take away, and I'll take away that tissue and fade this, you can sort of see there's something in here, right? Well, I want to just completely take that away too. Oops, let me get that back here. I'm going to hide that away. And that right there, this is what you're going to need to know, right? This might be one of them, the ligamentum teres femoris. You can't see that in the original structure that you saw. You're going to have to do what we call a dissection, and I'm putting quotes up, you can't see that, but a dissection of the model in order to get to the item that's in question. So you need to become comfortable with this. This is not complicated to manipulate, but it is, you know, when you first start, I get that. I was there and I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you do this? Just make sure you get down the basics. And even if you have to put in a little cheat sheet on your computer or somewhere nearby to remind you, well, how do I get around this? Do it so you have it available when you have the assessments going on. That's going to be really important. Now, when you're using mobile devices, there's going to be a few different tricks because it's a touch screen and you're going to be utilizing things. And that's fine and good and great for studying. But again, you will not be able to use mobile devices for assessments. So iPads, tablets, cell phones, no, that's for studying, great for studying, but not for assessments. So make sure you're really clear and comfortable that you're going to be using a desktop or laptop version with this software in order to take assessments, okay? Now, one other thing that I find, I've heard from students when we tested this out last spring, is all of a sudden everything's gone away and they get all nervous, like, how do I get it back? Well, the one thing you can do is look on this history and you just go back and say undo. Okay, that was the last thing I touched, right? That ligament. Well, I do it again. Well, then the femur was the next thing I took away. There it comes back. But if I go and hit refresh And I'm just going to go back and hide that again like I had it. And I get all nervous like, oh, no, I want to go back and do it. And I just hit refresh. What it's going to do is take it all the way back to the beginning. Ooh, okay, that may not be so good if you've taken and manipulated a lot of parts and you don't want to go all the way back and start taking everything off again. So make sure you're utilizing the software in the most effective way for what you need, and you're not going to have any panic when you're on an assessment. We're not going to be doing really long, intricate things that will take about 3 minutes to get to find a site. No, but we are going to make sure that you know where something is located. Like maybe we have the bottom of the foot and you need to look at the top of the foot. You know, something like that. You need to be able to get around and do it. A lot of times people focusing on this, they're zooming in and they're just going really super fast and they just get lost. Don't do that. Get comfortable, be familiar, and you'll be fine. You'll be totally fine. So one thing that I did find was kind of interesting, if you double click on an item, it'll take it right center view. And I thought that was kind of a neat little tool. And the space bar, moving it up and down and all over, rather than, but you can use arrows and so forth, whatever. Find out what works for you and run with it, basically. There's no one right way of doing it, which is kind of cool and kind of fun. Okay, I'm going to go back to Anatomy Physiology app. This is the app, this one here, A&P app. Okay, so I'm going to go to this because this will correspond a lot with what's going on with your worksheet. Now, you're going to be going through these worksheets, and each set of worksheets for a week. Now, this is week 1, and I'm pointing up to the right side, top right side. Week 1 lab objectives. This is everything that you need to study for the first week of class. After the first week, which will be done on Thursday, because we're going to make Friday a day of no new material that's presented, then you'll have that whole day to study and take your assessments on Saturday morning. Okay, we wanted to give one full day so that you could focus on lecture, focus on lab. If you have any questions, you can reach us and make sure that you're able to ask those questions to get appropriate responses back to you to really understand what's going on. We wanted to sort of have a cushion day for that. So that's how it's going to be set up. I really need to stress to you that you need to focus to your questions on that discussion board. We're a small little community. Yeah, it's about 50 people, but to Mr. Durst and I, who's typically into 150 each, this is a little small community, and we're so excited to have just a small group for a little bit. You need to work together and get to know each other, and you post questions on a discussion board. Someone else might have that same question, and if I respond to you in that, I'm helping someone else out too. And likewise, you could read a post from someone else and get information that you might not have thought of or had the same question. Either way, it works best if everybody works on it. Who cares if somebody sees that you're asking questions? It doesn't matter. You're having a question, make sure you ask it so that it can be answered. All right, enough about that. Moving on. There are some things in visible body that haven't been covered very well, not really at all. And that's in this blue area. These terms are very, very important. Both the prefixes, suffixes, planes and positions, and the anatomical and directional terms. I should say that visible body is a fairly new software. I heard about it about 3 years ago and have been so excited to get into it. And every time I see it again, they've just expanded just enormously. It's so exciting. But they, with the complexity of the human body and all, they can have everything done all at once. This is one thing that I kind of feel they compromised on a little bit. They just assumed that everybody is up to snuff on these terms and positions and so forth. Obviously, you're not, because this is our first class. But what we're going to do is there's a couple V-books that Visible Body put together. We'd like you to read through those books. They're not long. I mean, I don't know, it won't take you 10 minutes maybe at the most. But it's a visual to show you some of these terms and positions and make it clear of what's being pointed out. Mr. Durst is also going to be spending more than usual time talking about this in lecture that he hadn't done prior in the past with the semester-long face-to-face courses. So you will be getting this in the course, But I don't want you to think, oh, that was lecture material, not lab material. No, you need to know it for lab as well, because if we're asking you to identify the proximal epiphysis, well, you need to know which one that is. What is the difference between proximal and distal? You need to understand those terms in the lab, but we won't have anything specifically talking about it because you'll get that in lecture, okay? I just want to be very clear about that. It's so important in anatomy. Okay, let's get into the nitty gritty about this. How are you going to study for the lab utilizing these worksheets? What I'd like you to do is, you can jump in any part you want, but we've organized it by groups and starting with the beginning of how Mr. Durst is going to be doing this and how it is in visible body. It starts with the cell structures, and you'll see this V, B, A, and P. Well, that's visible body, A and P. And A and P is like this lab manual that you have, and I've already linked it up here. Just to remind you, it's this one here, if you need a visual reminder of what that is, because I know when I first saw this program, all these apps, and I just kind of went, wow, it's so confusing. But it's this first A and P app. And you know, I'm going to jump off a little bit off tangent here because I didn't explain the muscle premium. This is another app, obviously, it's about muscles. Yeah, because this is a human anatomy and physiology app. We are not talking about muscles exclusively. Kinsmazers, you get that in your own other courses, but in this course we're just doing a little bit of muscles. This will be relevant for when we talk about movement of joints, you know, how joints are moving. That'll be a nice one to look in there. Go ahead and dig around on this site, but again, we're not going to be focusing a lot of attention on the Muscle Premium app. You will be getting muscles, so you'll spend some time on it. It's not like you're not going to use this program, but the two that you're probably going to use most are the Atlas and the A&P. The physiology animations, all of those physiology animations are in A&P. So you don't really have to go through that app at all. I mean, that just has the sites pulled out, so you don't have to dig through and find out where they are in A&P. But as we go through the material for our objectives each week, it will be in the order that you need it, so you don't really need to go to A&P animations or the physiology animations. Okay, so let's get back into A&P. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be following along the information, learning this material, looking at visible body A&P 2.25. And the way to do that is go 2.2 is the second section, and there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are the sections that you're going to be, 2.2 and 2.5. So 2.2 is here and 2.5 is down below. This is what you're going to see, and it's a way to interact with the various structures of the cell. It's pretty good. Some of the things are fantastic and cool, but other things that kind of make you kind of scratch your head going, what? Why is that there? So just keep that in mind. Make sure if there's any questions about these, you just select them and you can read about each of the various contents that you're going to be selecting. So you've got lots of material here, and don't wig out too much about all this text. Sometimes in similar structures have the same text. It's just that you may not be selecting each structure, and they just want to have it available to you. So don't wig out too much about that. Also, another thing I should say, don't wig out too much about, is that you can look at all of these A&P, like this one down here with the organelles, 2.9 to 2.14. Holy cow! It's really not that much. It might just be a page, right? And there might not be anything really on it except a figure, and you're just going to be hitting the various organelles to find out what's what. And each page might be about a different organelle. So it's really not, it can be misleading if you just look at the numbers and sort of get wigged out. But like I say, don't do that, okay? All right. So with that, you'll go through and learn the material each week. A couple other features I put on top here, the histology, and I'm going to come back to this. I think it'll be better. Let's talk about the second one here. If an objective is not specifically linked to anything in visible body, you must still explore it based on what we put on these worksheets, okay? And again, it goes back to this as being a very young company, and they're going to try to be like a complete A&P courseware that you can use without any lab manual or anything, but they're still getting their feet wet, so to speak. One thing that comes up right away is the digital histology that we put in for the cell cycle. Okay, we want to focus a little bit of attention on mitosis, which is the division of the nucleus, but in the A&P guide, they don't really have much material. As I look in the guide, and I'm going back over to the left side, and I'm sort of slowing down because I want to point out and make sure that you're aware of what I'm doing. This is the menu here, and I find this really works easy to go back and forth between the A&P and the objective sheet. And on this one, we're looking at 3.2 to 3.4. Now, you can scroll down and go through it all like that, right? But you can also just go to this and double click on it and go directly to 3. Okay, so that's a nice, quick, efficient way to get to the different topics that you have to focus on. So 3.2 is the cell cycle, and you can see how it's, there's really not much here. This one, and it tells you kind of, this is a page, and it's just going to be one sheet of a page, right? So that's it. That's all that's on there. And then, I'm glad it went there. The next one was another page, and I went backwards, so I went to 1. I should have gone to 3. This is going to be a video. That's a representation of a video. So that's going to that physiology, anatomy, physiology animations that we talked about already. That's going to be one of those videos. And then 3.4 is going to be the structures. So even though it looks like there's a lot of material, there's really not, and it's just basically to get you to find out these, in this case, the organelles of the cell, and you can find everything or closely represented within these pages on the A&P guide. Okay? All right, so when I was talking about not everything is listed, that goes to this mitosis, which isn't a lot there, and as I showed you, there wasn't much here. A few structures, which are going down to these key structures, but nothing on mitosis that shows you the division of the nuclei that's happening. So we have linked this digital histology guide, and this is a link of great histology photos for you to use. This is just the opening page, but note this is prophase, and what you have to look at for on your objective sheets are all the phases, right? Prophase, metaphase, anaphase. By looking on this, you then need to scroll through it. We're not going to link every single page, right? There's another prophase. There's a nice prophase here. You have to go to the pages and find it. Now, look at that. You're in metaphase. So you need to explore. Don't just use the link and say, oh, I don't see anything, and just throw your hands up and move on. That's not going to help, right? You need to learn this material, and you need to be a little bit inquisitive and seek out what you need to find. Now, if you go through these links and you're just like, I have no idea where this is, I'm completely lost, yeah, send me a question on the discussion board, and I can help you find it. Okay, so that's for the material that's not listed there effectively from visible body. Let me go back to the A&P app. The next thing that I want to focus on is going to be the histology. Okay, now we've got histology links in the first section of the course. There is a lot of histology, and usually there's a big ugh, that goes off in the classroom when we're face to face. But, I should say this now, and I need to let you know this now so you don't totally be upset about doing histology. Usually when I talk to students in 314 at the end of 314, they come back and say, histology was my favorite part of 214. It was so cool. They didn't say that at the time, but they will. So hang in there. You'll get through the histology. It'll be fine. With the histology, what I want to point out, a couple things is, again, you have your links. We've got 2 different ones because it's all with how you see things and the views that you can get. I do want to point out sometimes we just did an overview slide, and this really isn't histology, isn't a photo of histology. This is an illustration, but it shows you clearly how they differ amongst all the different types of tissue we're going to be focusing on, and this is for epithelial tissues, so just the surface tissue, okay? If you choose one of them, like we're going to be focused on simple squamous epithelial tissue, you'll see that it doesn't link to a histology site or a histology view. It just shows you which one it is of the bunch that's listed here. So you can see it's a very simple structure. There's a nuclei and only one cell thick. Okay, it's not a lot. It's very basic. It's simple. It's a simple squamous epithelial tissue. Now, if you go back to, well, let me just cancel out. I don't need that one up. If you go back to the objective sheet, we put in another link, and this link corresponds to all the simple epithelial tissue that you need to know. Now, keep in mind, this is a full term. If you have assessments and written in part, you have to write the full name. So simple squamous epithelial tissue. Okay, so this will take you to the simple epithelial tissues. It starts with the simple squamous epithelial tissue, and then it will continue to other ones. Now, I said that there's a lot of things that are missing on visible body, right? Not everything. I mean, they have a lot of material in visible body. So when you go to the epithelial tissues, you can see that same pattern here and where it is in the body. But then you can also see histology. Oh wait, where's the histology? It's supposed to be histology here. It is. And I say that maybe so you can remember, because some people, I don't know, he's a kind of a big guy, last name starts with a D, I think, didn't even notice the dots below. If you click on those dots, you will see histology slides. Okay, so this one as corresponds to the simple squamous epithelial tissue. So the left and the right are the same tissue. You have it right down here on the side. And if you hit this button, it will make sure that it puts out arrows so it can show you. Okay, because you could say, well, which one is it? I don't see it. Well, inside here, this is actually from a kidney, so it's a glomerulus, which is another really cool A&P thing. But this is more easier to see that it's the 1 cell thick cells. So by seeing all these different histology tissues, you can get an understanding of what a simple squamous epithelial cell will look like. You don't need to see the same picture. I will use pictures from the links that I gave you, but it's not always going to be visible body. It's not always going to be digital histology, or it might not even be the other one that we have on there, which is going to be the histology guide. Okay? So just understand what the tissue looks like. You've got a nice representation of the illustration. It's 1 cell thick, simple squamous epithelial. Once you know it and see it, it's always going to look the same, regardless if you have a purple stain or a blue stain. It doesn't matter. So don't wig out about that, okay? I think that's it. What I needed to show you, and make sure that you dig into that histology tissue and not just assume that's the first one. Just go deeper and see what you can find out. If you have any questions, by all means, please ask. I am here to help. I want you to succeed, as Mr. Durst wants you to succeed in the lecture portion. This is a great class, and we hope you have a blast. And we'll be there for you, all right? We've got your backs, but you need to do the work. This is going to be a lot. Take the time to do it and get it done in 4 weeks, and it'll be great. You'll be so proud. You'll be so happy. Okay, that's it for me. I'm checking out. Sorry if this was a little too long. I have no idea how long it was, but I think it was important for you to see that and make sure you understand it in all aspects of using the atlas, and make sure you can move around easily and quickly with that, and don't get all wigged out when you're on assessments, and that you have all this material at your fingertips to be able to see. All right, if you have any questions, check in with me on the discussion board, and I'd be happy to help. Welcome aboard. It's going to be fun. Bye.